Hi friends, this is Vishwanath NG. Hi friends, today we are going to discuss about the education system in Netherlands with Mr. Geert, and this would give a complete picture for all the expats, how the education system works, admissions and other things. So, hi friends, today I have Mr. Geert with me. This is more an interaction about the education system in Netherlands. So, most of the expats comes with a lot of questions about the education system. So, I thought Mr. Geert would be the best person to explain us because he has a lot of expertise in the education system here. So let me take him there. And Mr. Geert, thank you for coming and spending your valuable time with us. And there are a lot of questions coming from expats that we are looking for your answers for that. But before that, maybe a quick introduction about you for the people, that would be easy for us.
Thanks for having me. My name is Geert Simons. I'm currently the Director-CEO of Proominent, which is public education in the middle of the Netherlands. And I used to be the founding head of Salto International Bilingual School in Eindhoven as well. And I'm aware that Dutch education is very complicated, so I understand that there would be many questions.
Correct. So the first question which would be is, what is the education system looks like in Netherlands? So we know there is a kindergarten, primary, so something like that. Maybe a quick overview how it works and how the education system works.
Yeah. Kindergarten and primary school are one school in Holland, and it starts from 4 years old. As from 5 years old, it's even it's obliged you go to school. You get fines when your child stays at home from 5 years old. So it starts from 4 years old. It's called Group 1. Of course, after Group 1 you have Group 2. And what most people abroad would call Year 1 is in Holland Group 3. So that's also the age. Children are about 6 years old then, the age that they start to learn how to read and write and do mathematics and stuff. Then it goes up till Group 8. Group 8 is, I think, what most people in the world would call Year 6. And after Group 8 you get advised by the school which direction you should go in high school, because high school starts around the age of 12. Then you have to make choices which level you will do. Will you do very practical education, which is called VMBO, or more theoretical, which is called HAVO, or very challenging theoretical, which is called VWO or Gymnasium. So these are the options you have in high school. That is the complicated part, because depending which level you do is also how long it will take. You can graduate at 16 years old or at 18 years old. If you want to go to university, it usually takes you till you're 17, 18 years old before you can go to university. And that's the same system as everywhere, university. What's also important to know is the difference you have in schools. But if you have any questions, interrupt me, because I can keep
definitely.
on telling.
Yeah, please.
Because, for example, you have the private education, which is actually very small in Holland, a few schools only. Most of it is public education. And in that public education, you have choices to make as well. You have the public education, in which every child is welcome. But you also have Christian public education or Islamic public education. So there are choices to be made. And then, which is very good in the Netherlands, is you also have international education. Again, in two ways. You have the subsidized international education, and you have the private international education. Private international education has the same school fees as anywhere in the world, around 30 to 40,000 euros a year per child. But the subsidized international education, the word says it, it's being subsidized. So that's why it's cheaper compared to elsewhere in the world, but you still have school fees of around 5,000, 6,000 euros a year.
Okay, so that was actually my next question after the education system of structure, what you were saying, have you, and all that. But yeah, so when it goes to a normal public education, so the fees is minimal or maybe zero fees. But when it goes for an international school, you're saying is the fees would be about 5,000 to 6,000 euros per annum. So what about bilingual? I think the bilingual is also there now. It's growing in many cities in Netherlands. The bilingual education is started. And how about the fee structure over there? And when we see the education system between the Dutch bilingual and the international school, you see any difference in learning for the kids?
Yes, of course. First of all, about school fees. In public schools, the school fees voluntarily. So it's usually around 40 or 50 euros a year. But as a parent, you can choose to pay it or not. In international schools, yeah, it's obliged. You pay for it. So there's a difference. And the difference in education, there are indeed more and more bilingual schools in Holland, but there are two types of them.
Okay.
There is the bilingual school that is actually meant for Dutch children to learn English as well.
Okay.
So the approach is different. They have the idea your Dutch should be perfect, and then we add English to it. And then you have, but they are very rare, only 3 I think, one in Amsterdam, 2 in Eindhoven. You have the international bilingual schools, and they are meant for international children who have to learn Dutch,
Okay.
and preferably already know English, or if they don't know English, they have to learn English as well. So it's another approach.
Okay.
So there is more, they have more experience in teaching children Dutch. Which if you go to the other international school, they don't have that experience at all, because they say Dutch should be perfect before you enter here. And that actually leads us to the most important question you should ask as a parent first, before you start looking at schools. The most important question is, what are my plans? What am I going to do?
Exactly. My point is coming there for the next one. And before that, for the people who are watching the video, see what Mr. Geert was saying is, here the education system is compulsory, so the kids has to go to the school, and if they do not, you will get a penalty. So do not be in a mindset, okay, let's take chill pill and take them to the school in a later stage or something for the expats, because they usually come for a short period and they think, okay, let's take the school a little later, or maybe we'll go back to our country and then we'll give a gap. So please do not do that. It's a compulsory education, so you will find a penalty. That's one. And the fee structure between the three different school levels, so he has explained, that's very much important. So look at your budget as well, because there are different criteria and categories where the people come here to work. So you need to look at your budget and then plan your school. So these are the two important things. Please look at it. So we continue our interview with Mr. Geert. Asking the next question is, when the expats comes here, which is the best school to choose, whether it's a Dutch or international or bilingual? Because usually what they ask is, the people comes, okay, I want to go back, but yeah, there are many people, they say they want to go back, but they do not go back.
Yeah.
They stay back. Yeah, that's fine. The staying back is a fine. But what do you recommend, or what is the right way of choosing the school education for their kids? And when it comes to the age wise, you divide, because as far I know, after some certain age, they do not get an education or the admission in the Dutch school directly. So they have to go through with a big process. So that's something which you can explain to us.
No. Life used to be easier a few years ago, because then you had 3 types of expats or immigrants. There was the type that came to the Netherlands and was very sure they would stay here like almost forever. If you're one of these people that moves here with the intention to stay like almost forever, then there's only one option: go to a Dutch school, because then you will integrate well in society, you will get opportunities to graduate, get a degree, and start working here as a child later as well. So if you're planning to stay here for good, go to a Dutch school. Then in the other times, you also had the people that came as an expat. And coming as an expat used to mean, before, I stayed 3 years, or 4, or 2, so a short time. To those people, if you're one of them, if you move now to the Netherlands with the intention to stay only 2, 3, maximum 4 years, there's only one good advice. It's a costly advice, but only one advice you should follow. Go to a pure international school. Can be one of the private ones or one of the subsidized ones, that's up to you, but go to an international school, because then the international education of your child continues, and if you move out of the Netherlands, either you go back home or you move to another expat country, then your child is just ready to continue its growth and continue its education. So, 2 clear options. If your life is that easy, options are clear as well. But we've noticed that the expat is changing these days. People are moving to the Netherlands, often on local contracts.
Exactly.
So no more the big expat contracts from before, and also with not having a clear answer on that one question. How long will you stay? Yeah, we don't know. It can be 2 years, it can be 5 years, it can be 7, it can be forever. We really have no idea. If you're one of these people, then the question is more complicated, of course, because what education do you need to choose? If you send your child to a pure international school, and after 8 years we find out, hey, we're still here, then your child has still not integrated in the local community, will not go to a local high school, and will not have local friends, but also don't graduate locally, so chances for integration are very limited. That's a pity. But if you have sent your child to a pure Dutch school, and after 2 years you find out, hey, we're moving back, then your child has invested a lot of time and effort into learning Dutch, which is okay, but will not be useful for the rest of his or her life. But also, your child is not invested in the international part of his identity, which will make it hard to go to another international country or back home. So, if you're in those cases, which is actually a growing part of the international community, then you have to look for one of the bilingual schools. But then be careful, choose for one of the bilingual schools that knows how to treat children that are not Dutch, because originally they were intended to be for Dutch children. So look for one of these. An example is the one in Eindhoven, created by Salto especially for these kind of children, because you will learn in English with an international curriculum, and you will learn that international curriculum also in Dutch half of the time. So you will learn Dutch, you will learn English. Of course, you will not learn Dutch in a click, because time is limited. You have only half of the time in Dutch and half of the time in English, so it takes a bit more time to acquire the Dutch. But you will acquire it anyway, and by the time you go to high school you will be good in Dutch, good in English, and your options are open to go to an international high school or a Dutch high school.
So what would be this ratio between English and the Dutch learning in the bilingual?
In the bilingual it's 50-50.
50-50. And you see that one, the kids would be very best in both the languages, which they can build their career, how they mean to say the career in the sense in the education system for the higher studies. It would be easy for them when they study in a bilingual for the shorter or maybe not very tentative how long they would be leaving. So you prefer that this is the best option?
Yeah, indeed.
Okay.
And also if you stay longer, your English will be good, so you can study in English. Your Dutch is good, you can study in Dutch. And if you move out faster, you've still worked on your international part of your identity, and you can move to a proper international school elsewhere as well. Okay,
perfect. So this is very clear. So I think guys, everybody got the clear idea of which education system you need to, or which type of school you need to choose. But my next question is on this education system. Is it there any difference between teaching or learning of the subject between the Dutch, international and bilingual in the syllabus wise?
In the syllabus wise?
Yes. Is there any difference? Are they, if the kids study in international school, are they going to learn more, which would be equivalent to an education system in Asia, US, UK or something like that? Or is it European as a standard education system which has to be followed, whether it's an international bilingual or a local school?
The amount of what they will learn academically will be the same.
Perfect.
The difference is, in an international school and in the bilingual schools, there is also a focus on being international. Where do you come from? What do you need to study? So it comes more closer to the child's identity, which makes it easier for the child to learn.
Okay.
If you go to a pure Dutch school as an international child, you'll be among the Dutch, and the focus on you being an international child will be smaller. In the beginning you might be very interesting, hey, that's that child from India, for example. Nice, but after a while that attention takes off because you're one of the children of class, and your international part gets forgotten. That doesn't sound important, but it actually is very important.
Correct, true.
Because if you can develop your international part of your identity as well, you feel respected for who you are as a child, and you learn easier. So,
okay.
For an international child, of course, international schools are easier, bilingual schools are easier, and Dutch schools, it will be harder to integrate.
Okay.
But after a while you will. But academic-wise, it's the same. There is a small difference, actually a big difference, between the approach of learning in, for example, a traditional Indian school in India and the schools in Holland, both the local schools, the bilingual schools, and the international schools. In kindergarten here, they focus more on learning by playing, or playful learning, which some parents find strange, like, hey, they're only playing, they're not learning. But here the approach is, no, they learn a lot by playing, and the teacher is helping them to learn while they play. So that's something you have to get used to often when you move from abroad to Holland, but that's in all the schools, from international to the local schools.
Okay, so guys, it's very clear, the syllabus wise there is no difference between all the three different schools. Only thing is they may have the exposure of their international behaviors. So maybe I would say that is more like a mother tongue language, or maybe your traditions of your country, which might be missing because the people more international goes to the international school or bilingual, so they have the circle around them to understand this concept and sustain with it. It's not that, but yeah, if that flow goes off and more international joins at Dutch, I think that is also going to be the similar, where they would try to integrate and see if that can be, because my son is also studying in a Dutch school, and now they have come up with a new concept saying that internationals will meet the kids and try to bring the equality in understanding and building the good rapport between the international and local. They are bringing some sessions every quarter now, so something, because more and more international Indian kids, not only Indian kids, I think many Asian kids are going there now in that school, and they are planning something. So I think that would help more. I feel so, but maybe what if that can be in a future. But presently, this is the right choice. What you are explaining is correct.
And probably also important to mention is, if you choose a Dutch school, then. And there are only a few international children, they will say, oh, if your child is in kindergarten, you probably will learn Dutch here at our school and you'll be fine. But if you're older, for example, your child is 8 or 9 years old, they will say, first you have to learn Dutch.
Exactly.
And
I was coming to that question.
Oh, sorry.
No problem. I was coming to that question. So when we select this different school, I think international school admission is very easy, because they look at their education and how they are learning and everything, they give admission. And bilingual is very similar to that. But when it comes to the Dutch school, I think there is some criteria where they can get an admission. So what is that criteria which you were trying to explain just now? Maybe if you could brief it out.
Most schools, but not all schools, will say when you're in kindergarten, you can join immediately, and you will learn the Dutch when you're here at school. Although some schools will also say, oh, it's too difficult for us. But when you're older, most schools will say, oh...
When we say older, what is the age? Is there any cutoff?
From group 3, so year 1 elsewhere. So around
group 3 is 6 years.
So,
yeah.
Most schools will say, oh, it's you can't learn your Dutch here, because that's not what we are good at. You have to learn Dutch at a specific school for newcomers. It's called newcomers school in Dutch. So that's a school where you go for 1 year approximately, maximum 2, but mostly 1 year, just to study Dutch. And after you finish that program in that specific school, then you can go to any Dutch school of your choosing.
Okay.
That's what most schools will say. But as you said, there are also schools where more and more international children are coming. They often start their own language groups in their school because there are so many children that they have the fundings to do it.
Correct.
So that happens, but most of the time your child will be 1, maximum 2 years in a language program, either in the school of your choosing or in a specific school for that.
Will that education, a year will be lost when they study in a Dutch this thing? So I mean to say that academic year, will there be any gap? Or will that be considered as that academic for them?
Usually there will not be a gap. Of course, if your child finds it hard to learn mathematics and language and everything, then he or she might lose a year. But when your child learns on an average level or higher, then the year will not be lost, because the school is of course focusing on learning Dutch, but is also doing the mathematics and everything. So the program has been designed not to lose a year. But when your child is having learning difficulties, then he or she might lose that year.
Okay, so guys, when you plan for having your kid who is more than 6 years and planning for a Dutch school, then the kids would go to a specific school. Sorry, what is the name?
Newcomers school.
Newcomers
school.
Yeah, and I also heard about Worldwise, and maybe we'll discuss that.
That's one of them.
Oh, okay, one of them. So they go to that school. They will not miss any academic year. There will be no gap. It's just that they will learn Dutch a little bit more extra effort with other education like mathematics or whatever it is. So that's what he was saying, and that's something which not impact. So if you're planning for Dutch school and staying for longer time, so that would be the start, and then they come to the normal Dutch school. So there is no issues at all. So this is something which we covered, and I think the next one is adapting. Also, you said going into the school of Dutch school, you already covered that. I added like a question: how is it easy for them to adapt? That is, you have already covered in previous part, so that's not a problem. And also, I heard here the system what we have is, we cannot avail a lot of leaves for the kids, because many people say, okay, I am expat, I need to go to my country, or I need to go for a vacation when I get my off during my office hours, because I am working and I need to look for an holiday, and my holiday is 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and I need to fly to my country. So what do you suggest? Because I hear a lot of people saying that we do not get a leaves, and is there any rules from the government that you cannot avail like this? And
there are very strict rules about that.
Very important, guys.
You cannot go on holiday when you want to go on holiday. You have to go on holiday when the child is on holiday. And if you decide to go on holiday when there is no school holiday, you get huge fines, which go up to 2,000, 3,000 euros. So my advice, do not go on holiday when your child is not having a school holiday. Of course, there are exceptions when your mother at home is sick and you really need to go to see her final stages of life. Then you ask permission from the school principal. So you don't decide yourself to go on holiday, but you fill out a form with the school principal to ask permission to go on holiday or leave. So there are exceptions that you can go. Also, religious holidays. Your child can get a day off for that as well, but only for the holiday. So if the holiday is 1 day, you only get leave for 1 day. So rules are very strict. If you need extra holiday, ask permission from the principal, but his hands are tied as well, so he's tied to rules. So often he will say no, only when you have good reasons, then he might say yes, and if it takes long, he even has to ask permission from the local government.
Yes, I was coming because I heard when there is a certain number of days which crosses, that they need to approach the local government for there is an education body which would gives the approval for the leaves. Is that true?
There is something called the leerplichtambtenaar, which is the official from the local government. Um, the principal, when you have a long term of holiday you're requesting for, he will, longer than, what is it, 10 days or so in a year, even the principal will have to ask permission from that board.
Okay.
And they decide yes or no. Those are also the ones deciding on your penalties, yes or no.
Okay, perfect. So we covered that questions also. So be careful when you are planning for holidays. Do not just blindly book a ticket and fly, guys, because I've seen many people, they go and they finally, once they are back, they find a big letter coming from the government with a big fine, penalties and other things. So be careful. So our next question is more onto the education. Like we know kinder, primary and high school, then it goes to the college. And during the from high school and from primary to high school, you gave 3 structure, which is VABO, ABO and
VMBO, HAVO, HAVO, and VWO, VWO.
Okay, is that something which students has to select, or is the teacher or the school would decide where the kid would go? And if from the international school they come to join any of this structure, is it easy to join for them? I think after the group 8 in international school, it is known as something else.
Yeah, that's a very important question, because I'm also not Dutch. I also had to get used to it. In Holland, it's not you as a parent or the child that decides to which high school. To which high school you can decide yourself, but to which grade of high school you're going.
Structure.
It is the primary school actually who decides. They give an advice, they call it, but it's an advice you have to follow. And if the advice says you have to go to HAVO, then you cannot go to the VWO. So it's the primary school that decides. But there is an important but. As international parents, you have to follow up well, and stimulate to get the right advice, because what many Dutch primary schools don't know is that it takes a while to acquire a good level of Dutch for a child. Because after 2 or 3 years, every child can ask very politely to go to the bathroom. And then every teacher will think, oh, look how cute, he speaks perfectly Dutch. But no, it takes 6 to 7 years to reach an academic level of Dutch. But all those tests they do, the official tests, are in Dutch and require a right amount of language. So many international children score less on those Dutch official tests than they actually would do in their own language or in English. So their potential is higher than they can show on the test. Then it's very important that you as a parent look for that research. You can find it easily. How long does it take to acquire a language perfectly? And show that to those teachers. Like, look, I know my child scored, sorry.
No problem.
I know my child scored low on the test, but he is still learning Dutch, so can you look at his true potential? You really need to keep on challenging the teachers on that potential, otherwise your child will end up with a lower advice than the potential is. And the school decides, but you as a parent keep on pushing when you truly believe the level is higher, because of course not all children reach the highest level. When your child doesn't have the potential, just accept it. But if you can keep on pushing, you see in Holland that non-educated Dutch parents don't feel like they can push the school, and their children often get lower advices than educated parents who are very confident and keep on pushing the school. Their children often get higher advices. So keep that in mind when your child is in group 8.
Please do take care of this point, guys. And when we go to from international to this level, is there any difference from high school to the next, from primary to high school, from in international school and Dutch school?
The difference is that the Dutch schools have to do these Dutch tests, and the international school and the bilingual international schools, not the normal bilingual ones, but for example the one in Eindhoven, they don't have to do the official Dutch test, they can also do official English tests, for example, and base their advice upon that. So when the school advises a level, the high school has to follow. That's also hard for a high school, because if they get a child from an international school or from a bilingual school, which Dutch is not good coming from the international school, or not as good yet coming from the bilingual school, the high school will think, oh, but how did you get this high advice if the Dutch is so bad? So then it's important that the school keeps on explaining why that advice and what it is based upon too. So it's easier for your child, your international child, not being that long in Holland, to go to the higher level when it has been in the bilingual or the international school. Or if you find a Dutch school that is very aware of that.
Thanks. Yeah, we were discussing on that about the international school moving into the three structure, HBO, BEVO, or whatever. How is that you were explaining? So maybe we can continue that.
Yeah, sorry for taking the phone call.
No problem.
As I said, it's the primary school that gives the advice. When your child is going to an international or a bilingual school, it will be harder for the high schools to accept the advice, but they have to, because the advice of the primary school is legal for both parents, but also for the high schools. And when you're going to a Dutch school, you really have to be aware that your level of Dutch of your child might be lower, so the test may be lower while the potential is higher, so keep the primary school focused on that part of the development of your child.
Okay, clear. And next I heard is even after after they study in international school, in some certain level they need to clear the Dutch exam, some Dutch exam. Is that true?
In the bilingual schools?
No, in international schools. When they go to school, high school or college, something they have to take some exam on the Dutch. That is what I heard. Is that true?
There might be a Dutch as a second language exam, but that's not one of the important ones. There will not be exams in Dutch when you go into an international school.
Okay.
The challenge is when you go to bilingual high school, which there are many of them in Holland, but again they are actually meant for Dutch children learning English. When you go to a bilingual high school, at this moment you have to do your final exams in Dutch.
Okay.
So that's hard, because you've been studying in English, but you have to do your exams in Dutch. So then you have to make sure that that your level of Dutch will be high.
Okay, clear. So the next thing is in that aspect, when we see that one in the primary school or the kindergarten school, public school, they do not have a fees. In high school we have a fees. Sorry, for international school we have a fees, and bilingual is a minimal fees. So how about in the high school structure? Is the kids who studies from the Dutch school, I know when they go to the high school it's a free for them in the high school also. Even in college also they get a free, because they clear 8 years of education in the Dutch system and they get a free education system till the college. Is that the same what I understand, or is there any difference with the fee structure when they move on to the higher education?
In public high schools, the school fee is also there is a school fee, but voluntarily. So you as a parent can decide to pay it or not, which is again very low school fee, and those fees are used for the extra activities. When you go to an international school, of course you have to pay a school fee. Yeah, school fees are low and voluntarily. You choose to pay or not. If you go to a bilingual high school, it's actually also voluntarily. The fee will be higher, around 500 euros. That's what I'm paying for my child who is going to a bilingual school. But there I would recommend to pay it. Officially it's voluntarily, but it will get tough.
Okay.
College and universities, not for free. It's actually quite expensive in the Netherlands.
Okay, so whether it's they study in a Dutch school or international school or bilingual, so the college fees has to be paid.
Yeah, and they're quite high in Holland.
It's quite high. Okay, so is there any difference if the kids study in a Dutch school and international bilingual? The fees structure is going to be a different for them in the college, or is it going to be the same?
There is a difference between you being Dutch or not being Dutch in the school fee of college and university.
Okay, that's more onto the status of the identity, not on the studying in the school.
No, there is no difference there.
Okay, perfect. So there is a school fees as well. Okay, then I have one more thing, admission. So how easy is the admission and nowadays in Netherlands? Is it quick? They go choose a school and they take admission, or what is the procedure?
It is quite quick. Many schools have their admission form on their website, or you contact the school and ask for an admission form. And there is this one, if you go to public schools, again, international schools it's different, but if you go to a public school, there is a law that is called zorgplicht, means something like school has to take care of your child. That means as soon as you have approached a school and mentioned that you're interested in the school has to take care of your child to find the right education for your child, which usually means to go into that school. There are only few reasons that a school might say your child is cannot join our school. And those reasons are, one, we're full, but then they need to be able to prove that they're full. Or two, we cannot offer the care your child needs. And that's a tricky one, because if your child really needs a lot of care, then it's easy for the school to prove that they cannot offer that care. But also, if your child doesn't speak Dutch, and the school can prove, we are not experienced in teaching children or learning children to Dutch, then that can be a reason as well to say no to a child. And then your child goes to that newcomer school, and then later can come back to your school of choice.
Okay.
Also, when the school says, sorry, we cannot take care of your child, the school has the task to help you to find the right school then.
Oh, okay.
So as soon as you say to the school, I want to get admission in this school, the school has a responsibility for your child.
Okay, perfect. And then I wanted to check about the admission, but in case if the parent is in this locality and they are finding a school in this locality, is it compulsory that they have to find a school in their locality, or they can go somewhere else nearby which is better rating school or something like that? They choose, or is it like in UK and America they have to stick on to the particular area locality school itself when it comes to a Dutch school?
Parents have free choice.
Free choice.
You can choose in any town or village you want. You can choose for Catholic, public, Christian, Islam. It's your choice.
Okay, now let's assume the kid is studying in one school and suddenly the parents wants to move out from this locality to other locality. Is it easy to transfer the kids to an other school, or they have to continue in that the same school where they started their education?
No, it's also very easy. You mention to the principal you want to quit the school, he fills out a form, sends it to the next school, and there you enroll again.
So it's not the parents' headache to discuss with the two schools, get the documentation, transfer and all that. It happens automatically.
It happens automatically.
That's really nice, because in India we have to take a transfer certificate and other things. I don't know about other countries. I know in some countries they need to collect the documentation and the conduct certificate, everything. They have to manually give it. The parents itself has to go to the next school, search for the school and give the documentations and everything. Okay, that's really very easy.
There is a but.
Okay, there is a but. Okay, maybe what is that but? I would like to.
If you move for awkward reason, for example, you disagree with the advices the school is giving, and you say, I'm not getting what I want in this school, I'll move to another school.
Okay.
You're allowed to, because choice for school is up to the parents. But you might get attention from childcare, and they might come and have conversations with you like, hey, is it correct what you're doing? Are you sure you take well care of your child? And if you move too often to schools, from schools to school, then for sure you will get in touch with child care protection.
Okay. So you covered most of the things, which is really a lot of questions which is coming out from the people, and thanks for your answers. But last two questions is there, which is a very important question. Is there any school in Netherlands which also look at the mother tongue language as one of the learning during the school hours. Is there anything, or what do you think?
Is there a school that teaches mother tongue languages during school time?
Yeah.
There will be. I don't know out of my head where, because all international schools have in their mission and vision that they value the mother tongues of the students, and it is the perfect way to do that is to have it during school time. So all international schools kind of want to offer the mother tongue during school times. Most of them just don't know yet how to do that. But all of them are in a search on how to offer a mother tongue during school time. So, and you see it happening abroad. It will happen. Some of them will already have it, and it will happen more and more. But most of them will actually want to have it. Only how to organize it is a challenge.
Okay. So that is something which I think very important now to look at it. But yeah, there are a lot of other private education schools are there who teaches the mother tongue language. Like from our India Center, we are teaching Indian languages to the kids. We were tied up with Salto during that period before the Corona, and we were teaching in the weekend, not at the school hours. That's something if we collaborate and try to see if we can do it during the school hours, that is also good. But yeah, I know there are multiple challenges would be seen.
But it's very important that you mention it, because many people moving abroad, often people with minority home languages, think, oh, let's skip our home language at all and learn either English or the language of the country that I'm moving in. That's the wrong thing to do. Never do that. Always focus on your home language. Look for a professional organization that helps you teaching that home language, because knowing a language is more than talking about dinner at the dinner table at home. No, it's you have to know your own home languages well, profoundly and academically, to be able to study well in another language, being English or Dutch, that doesn't matter, but always focus on your home language. Don't fall for the trap, like stop with my home language and go completely English or completely Dutch or whatever.
Perfect. That's very important, guys. Please concentrate on your mother tongue also, because that's very much necessary for a kid, whether you move back to your country or doesn't. So that's very much necessary. That's to sustain the culture or the languages for the future, for the next generation. So please do take care.
And I was telling about the trap with the Dutch teacher that says, oh, he knows how to ask you to go to the bathroom very well in Dutch, how cute. Yes. But the tests are low, so let's go to the lowest level. Don't do that as a parent. So we can talk about birds and bees and dinner at the dinner table, so my home language as well. We can forget about it. No, it needs to be academically well profound.
Yes, so yeah, that's very much so. Please do take care. There are a lot of institutions, and also in Eindhoven we have some HLE, which is a big organization which has started. I think you're also part of the HLE. So where all mother tongues are brought in, and they are trying to explore and trying to share the information which school is where and how they can each expats go contact there to learn their mother tongue. So that's also one of it. So maybe it should be there in every city. That's what I feel. But maybe let's see how it goes off. And the last one is, I see many parents who mainly from our country, that's India, where they try to see what the teacher says here in the Dutch school, whether international school, they do not have a homework. That is, when they come to home, they do not need to study. That is what each and every school in Netherlands they say, whether it's an international bilingual or Dutch school. But in India, it's not like that. They more concentrate on some homeworks which the teacher gives, where they go back to the home and they study, because their education system is little higher than any other country. That's where we look at it. So that's something which is not here. So what the parents are doing is they are trying to teach additionally at home. So some teachers, they say that as local teachers, it's illegal. Teaching additionally at home is not allowed. Is that true?
You can do whatever you want at home. So if you want to study at home, feel free. I wouldn't recommend it, because
yeah, I was coming. Do you recommend for that type of education from the parents additionally at home after the school hours?
No, I wouldn't. Of course, teaching the home language, preferably by a professional organization, I would recommend a lot. but doing extra mathematics or extra languages, extra Dutch then I mean, at home I wouldn't recommend it. If you want to study extra Chinese or extra
Indian languages like Hindi, Tamil, Telugu, whatever.
yeah,
Mother tongue
or
languages.
Spanish for fun,
Yeah.
feel free, do it. But I wouldn't study the same subjects as they have at school. For example, if you do extra mathematics at school, at home, the system you're teaching it is different than the system the school is using, and you will confuse your child, which will actually lead to worse results instead of better results at the end. So if you want to study extra, pick something that you're not studying at school, and feel free to do it. But also, we truly believe in Holland that playing is an important skill for a child as well. So let the child play. I would say 2 years before high school, so what in Holland we call group 7 and group 8, do a bit more at home of studying, so the child gets used to studying. Otherwise the gap of going from primary school to high school, where there is actually a lot of homework, is too big, and you often see Dutch children suffering a bit in the first year of high school because they're not used to doing homework. So group 7, group 8 do a little bit of work at home, but not the same subjects as at school, because you will confuse your child.
Yeah, so that's very much true, guys, because I have seen, I made a mistake as well, where I was teaching mathematics to my son in a different style, which is our Indian system. But unfortunately, when I met the teacher, I understood he goes and gets confused in the class, and then I learned from the teacher how they teach the mathematics, and I'm now teaching him in the same style. He's picked up and his teacher is really happy, so that's something which you need to look at it. But this is more on the mathematics and the normal languages learning. But I see in India, you know, I think you know a little bit about Indian education system. We have different subjects like social studies, science, mathematics, English, some more histories and all that. They try to mix it up and they try to teach in India. That's something which here also I've seen the parents doing it. This is more to the Indian parents. I do not know how the other country education systems work, but till now whatever we have covered, it's more common to the expats. But this is very specific question to an Indian education system, because we have social studies which is covers the history of India and all that. That is something which any of the school doesn't teach, whether it's an international school or a bilingual or this thing. So they do not cover the social studies. There is no syllabus of social studies. That's more maths and science. Science is a very deep when it comes to the higher education, but not in the lower education. That's what I understand. So the parents are started teaching this, like if the group 3, that means in the group first standard in India, that's the equal. They try to match what group here the kid, and they match with the Indian what group they are supposed to be. They try to teach. Is that something really good? Because some parents might go back. Yes, they are thinking that my son goes back, he might find difficulties, so teaching him will make it easy. But some people may not go back. So what do you suggest? Is it something right what their parents are doing?
If you want to offer social studies to your child, you should do it, because it's always good to have social studies and to learn about your identity, your culture, where you're coming from. So of course, feel free and study as much as you want.
Okay.
If you find the right balance for playing, of course.
Okay, that's right. So you can teach them, but there is a right balance. That is what he's saying. Yes, there is very much right balance, because I've seen what we are following in India, the 8 hours to 12 hours of study. That is something which we are still following it up. Please do come out. Yes, education is very important, but there should be an exposure for them to play, because if you see in earlier stage when we were kids, we used to play in the ground, but now more kids we do not see in the playground. They are more with the devices, because it's a way of education. We are teaching them in the systems, laptop, devices, books and everything. They are getting addicted more onto the devices. They are not physically exploring the things. So I would recommend balancing is very much important.
Yeah, true.
So that's it. I think we have covered most of the things. But any additionally you think which we missed it out about the education system which is must known to an expats?
No, the most important is actually that one question. What kind of expat are you? Are you moving for good to Holland?
Okay, perfect.
Or staying temporarily?
Yeah.
or you don't know.
So mainly the people who comes on a deputation, there are certain period where they would be working and then they have to go back. That is what they know. But when it comes as a local contract, I see many people, they say they go back in some years, but yeah, finally they decide to stay back. Yeah, there was one more question. I heard the international schools are for more expats who are going to stay with less than 5 years. But I see there are many kids who study even after 5 years. Is it legally allowed, or is it something which their practice going on? What is that?
A true international school is meant for children who stay 2, 3, 4 years.
Okay.
So if you're one of these children, go to an international school. There are children who tend to stay longer in an international school, but that's not the whole idea. But it happens, for sure, if you think you stay 2, 3 years, and then you think, my project takes longer, I stay 2, 3 years longer, yeah, then of course they're not going to kick you out of school, and then you can stay. So you can stay longer in an international school, but if you know that in advance, I wouldn't recommend it. Then I would recommend a bilingual international school, which is also an international school, but with a bilingual approach.
Okay, so that's something which you have to look at it. So please, many people who comes in a local contract, I know you want a mindset, my kid is studying in international school, so that school is something which is not suitable. No, do not think in that way. You have gained lot of information in the syllabus wise. There is no difference, which Mr. Geert has told you. So please think twice before you take a decision. Studying your kid in international school doesn't mean that you are taking the kid in an international level of education where they'll be comfortably going and learning and different education. Like if you move back to India, it doesn't mean that he will learn the same level of education what Indian kid would have learnt if he studies in international school. It's not that true.
No.
So please remember that and plan your decision well. If you are in a local contract, as I know, most of the people stay more than 5 years for sure. So please think, if your kid is less age, it's a time to start the education in the primary section or in the kindergarten. I would recommend Dutch school. So what do you recommend? Is it recommended as a Dutch school, because they at least they would stay for 5 years?
I think for the most people, sorry to say, but that bilingual education would be the best.
Bilingual, okay.
Take the one from Eindhoven, for example. It's called Salto International School. It's an international school with an international curriculum, but with a bilingual approach. So you will have the best of both worlds. You will have the best of international education and the best of Dutch education mixed in one school. So if you know you're temporary but long time here, 5, 6, 7 years, I would recommend the bilingual international school.
Okay.
If you stay longer, if your child is going to stay here the whole academic, so his or her whole youth, then go to Dutch school.
Okay, so is this bilingual is available in all the cities of Netherlands, in at least in the major cities like Utrecht, Eindhoven, or might be Amsterdam, Amstelveen, Arnhem, Nijmegen, Nieuwegen. These are some very expats place where we know even Almere is growing now.
The Dutch bilingual schools, there are on different places in Holland, but yeah, they're actually meant for Dutch children. The international bilingual schools, I know for sure they are in Eindhoven and in Amsterdam. I would suggest for groups of international people living in the other cities, group yourself, approach a group of Dutch local schools, look for the CEO there and tell them, look, we are so many of us looking for this kind of education. You can go to Eindhoven, learn what it is. Can we start it here as well in Arnhem, Almere, or wherever you want to?
So do you have any plans to start in any of the cities?
If there is enough demand, I would be happy to do so.
Okay, because you know that even I'm approaching you to start something in a major cities, like we had some discussion earlier before this video. So that's something which we can look at it and see what we can do for the kids. But yeah, if you have more school details, maybe that would help us out for many kids. And next thing is, like we know people are spreading across the Netherlands and the schools are bit of very limited. So is there anything you see that they're going to be a different type of approach where the schools are going to bring up and get more and more schools in the different zones? Do you see that one in coming years?
You mean bilingual schools?
Yes.
Yes. I think so, but then it's also a task for the international community to stand up and say, we need this. Look at the Eindhoven Salto International School. That's what we need. And if you do that and you approach the right people, the CEOs of the groups of schools, because in Holland they work with besturen, which is called groups of schools all over the country, approach them and tell them, we need what they have in Eindhoven, we need that Salto International School, we need that here.
Okay.
How can we make that happen?
Is this group does any annual connect or a quarter connect, or once all the schools meets anywhere as a small connect between the CEOs or maybe some
you have
principal?
something
like
called
that?
the PO-raad. PO stands for Primary Education in Dutch, and that's where all the groups of schools meet often. And you also have an organization called NUFIC, and NUFIC has a task to make schools in Holland more international. So it's a government body. You could approach them as well.
Okay. So this event which happens, is it allowed from an external parties to contact them? Like, can we also attend, like from an Indian center, ICIN? I would like to participate and give my views for them, or maybe my ideas, because we have huge expats growing, maybe like this Salto's option, or maybe some more ideas what we have which can be bring into the table and put it across to these people, because reaching each school would be difficult. This type of events, or maybe if we can organize this meet from all the school CEOs where we can give some inputs to them from each community or something. That something is that. Do you think it's possible?
I don't know. I will have to massage the idea into that body, into the PO-raad. Maybe then it will. Yeah, it must be possible. But it might take a while because it's a very official, slow-working organization.
Okay, perfect. So I think we have covered many things, guys, and he's also a little bit busy, and we already taken extra time. So we asked for 1 hour, but it's crossed 1 hour, and thank you for that. So we have covered most of the things. As he said, he has options to start in a different regions of Netherlands, also bilingual, and even I'm also trying to discuss with him to start some bilingual in especially Eindhoven, because the growth is gone very high for expats in this region in the last few years, and now we are expected more and more expats coming in. So there is a lot of school admission crunches also started now, so that's why I'm in discussion with him. Let's see how fast we can bring in the bilingual in different zones and getting more international schools in different regions, or maybe in this Eindhoven, because that's now on main, because many children are not getting admission quickly when they come into the city in specific growing cities in the Netherlands. That's what we look at it. So maybe due to some extra reasons, so we'll not get into that, but yeah, that's something if we can see, if we can get more solutions for that, that would be great. And thanks for your time, Mr. Geert, and let's keep in touch and see how fast we are getting. There are a lot of bilingual schools in a different zone. We are always there from India Center, ICIN, or my personally, I am there with you for this type of activities. You can always tell, okay, let's think about it, maybe we can do something. So please.
Sounds good. Always happy to have a chat with you and with the community.
Thank you very much, Geert. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.